This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
Generative AI is already a black box that's kind of mysterious. So, should you be using DeepSeek, a pretty state-of-the-art and impressive model, but one from a Chinese AI company that has maybe more questions than answers? Sure, it has impressive benchmarks, low cost, and is kind of, but not really open source. Yet a bill was recently introduced in the US Senate that would levy $100 million fines for companies and $1 million fines for individuals just for using it, and could even carry potential prison sentences for willful violations. So, sure, DeepSeek is popular, it's trending. Everyone's using it. Everyone's talking about it. And big companies like Microsoft, Perplexity, and AWS now have supported versions of their popular V3 and R1 models. So is this a Sputnik moment for AI, or is DeepSeek a potential national security threat? We're about to dive in pretty deep today on DeepSeek, answer those questions and hopefully a lot more. What's going on, y'all? My name's Jordan Wilson, and welcome to Everyday AI. This is your daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday people like you and me not just learn what's going on in the world of AI, but how we can all actually leverage that and take it to our advantage, grow our companies and careers. And I want you to be the smartest person in your company when it comes to AI. And where you can do that, aside from listening to this podcast every single weekday when we do it, if you want to come jump on the live stream and ask questions, we do that at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. But the other place you do it is on our website at youreverydayai.com. So if you want more on today's episode, we're going to be recapping today's episode in our newsletter, as we do every single day, as well as sharing everything else that you need to be the smartest person in AI at your company. So please make sure you go check that out. While you're there, I'm not going to stop promoting this, y'all. Go listen to episodes 443 through 447 on our website. It's all for free. It's all there. Listen to it at your leisure. Listen to it on 2X. I won't be mad, right? But go check out those episodes, our 2025 AI predictions and roadmap series. Because guess what? Before any of this DeepSeek hoopla happened, I told you exactly how this was going to go down. I told you exactly how a lot of Chinese LLMs in 2025 were going to be a little more Trojan horse than actual state-of-the-art models. So, not saying I warned y'all and told you what was going to happen, but, go listen to those shows. All right. So before we get into DeepSeek and talk about if this is AI's Sputnik moment or if it is a national security disaster, let's first go over the AI news as we do every single day. All right. So O3, the O3 model from OpenAI, has achieved gold medal status at the 2024 International Olympiad in Informatics. So OpenAI's new reasoning model, O3, has achieved gold medal status at the 2024 International Olympiad in Informatics, marking a significant achievement in algorithmic problem solving and coding. This accomplishment is notable as O3 reached this level without relying on competition-specific handcrafted strategies, highlighting its advanced reasoning capabilities. So O3's performance was driven solely by scaled-up reinforcement learning, setting it apart from its predecessor, O1, which used tailored strategies specifically for that competition. So the model's code forces rating now ranks in the 99th percentile worldwide, aligning it with the top human competitors on the planet. That's a considerable improvement from O1's 93rd percentile, and that is the O1 version, the IOI version that was fine-tuned specifically for the International Olympiad in Informatics. All right, our next piece of AI news. Apple is reportedly partnering with Alibaba to enhance AI features for iPhone users in China. So, according to the information, Apple is collaborating with Alibaba to introduce new AI features for iPhone users in China. The partnership aims to address Apple's declining market share in China, where domestic competitors like Huawei have surged ahead with AI integrated smartphones. So, yeah, Apple couldn't roll out their Apple Intelligence in China. So now they have been looking for an AI partner. So initially, Apple had partnered with Baidu for AI development, but the results did not meet Apple's standards. Other potential partners, according to the information considered by Apple, included Tencent, ByteDance, and DeepSeek, though DeepSeek was ultimately not chosen due to its insufficient resources and experience. The AI features developed by Apple and Alibaba are currently awaiting approval from China's cyberspace regulator. All right. And that integration of AI tools is pretty crucial for Apple, especially after a dip in iPhone sales during the holiday quarter, which is traditionally a peak sales period. All right. Last but not least, OpenAI has reportedly not received Elon Musk's takeover bid for OpenAI. Yeah, this is apparently more than just a Twitter spat. So OpenAI, according to Reuters, plans to reject, not eject out of a rocket, but reject Elon Musk's led group bid to buy OpenAI for $97.4 billion. So the bid was reportedly sent to OpenAI's outside counsel, but has not yet been formally received by the board, leading to confusion and tension between the parties. So Elon Musk's lawyer claimed the offer was sent as a detailed 4-page letter of intent to purchase OpenAI's assets, but OpenAI CEO Sam Altman dismissed the offer as a disruptive tactic. So OpenAI, which was co-founded by Musk in 2015, along with Sam Altman and others, is in the process of transitioning from a nonprofit to a for-profit entity to raise $40 billion in new funding for AI model development. So Altman emphasized that OpenAI is not for sale and criticized Musk's attempt as a move to interfere with the company's plans to transition from a nonprofit to a for-profit entity. Legal experts suggest Musk's bid complicates the valuation of OpenAI's nonprofit assets, highlighting the need for regulatory oversight to ensure fair market value. Yeah, I don't know. Guess who's in regulatory oversight right now in the U.S. government? That would be Elon Musk. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out. All right. Enough chit chat, y'all. Let's talk DeepSeek. Live stream audience, love to see y'all joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Big bogey face from YouTube, Douglas, Yoshel, Zolfia, Sandra, everyone else. Marie, Brian, thank you for tuning in. I'm curious, are you all using DeepSeek, right? Samuel here says, I downloaded the DeepSeek app and played with it, but I use it a lot in Perplexity. Yeah, I'm curious. Is DeepSeek in your company's radar right now? Is your company using DeepSeek? Are you using it as an individual? I want to hear from you all because maybe I have a tainted point of view. But we'll get to that here. But let's just go over. Let's go over the good stuff, y'all. We're going to go over the good stuff, the bad stuff, the questionable stuff, because let's be honest, since this model launched, it has been grabbing headlines for good and bad reasons. Yet, I still think, even after it's been nearly 3 weeks since its release, I still think there are way more questions than answers, which is not normal for a state-of-the-art large language model. So here is the real good stuff about DeepSeek. So they have very capable models that bench well. So they have their faster DeepSeek V3, which is their kind of transformer type model. And then they have their powerful R1 reasoning model, right? So again, we have to start separating these models as the big companies like OpenAI, Google, and now DeepSeek are all kind of on board with the same thing. You have your kind of quote unquote traditional transformer models, and then you have your reasoner models, and great benchmarks from DeepSeek. When they came out, you can make the argument that it was a top maybe 2 or 3 model in the world, probably both of them. You could have made that argument. Also, This is great for the open source community and AI development as a whole. I'm going to get to that whole open source thing. I said it's great for the open source community. All right. The other thing, because we're going to talk about a lot of the problematic or unknown things when it comes to DeepSeek, but the good thing is now there are US hosted alternatives, right? So yes, this was launched by the Chinese AI company DeepSeek, which is a relatively unknown company, right? Especially, here in the US and other parts of the world. So there's been a lot of questions on like, hey, should we be using it? Well, there are now US hosted alternatives via companies like Perplexity, Microsoft, AWS. So in the last couple of weeks, it's gotten this boost of legitimacy as some of the biggest tech companies here in the US have offered official support for DeepSeek's models. And in these kind of updated versions, user data is processed and stored on servers in the US or other secure regions, right? That's important. And they use a modified DeepSeek model, removing some of the more problematic features like censorship, or data sharing mechanisms. All right. So
are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI.
all right. Samuel saying our company leadership discussed DeepSeek yesterday. It's quote unquote easy relatively to host and fine tune. It is, but it's way more problematic than that because we have to talk about the real, not so good stuff. All right. One of the reasons DeepSeek literally caused market mayhem here in the US, well, because of a couple of things. One, they reported that the model cost $5.5 million to train. And they said the model is fully open source. Those two things are not true. All right. So I would say it was actually the three things that happened all at once. Number one, it had great benchmarks. That can't be denied. Right. So when you come out with a new model that is benching as, a top 3 model in the world, going from a relatively unknown to competing or overthrowing on certain benchmarks, state-of-the-art models from Google and OpenAI, that's point number one. Very powerful, capable models. The fact that it's like, oh, this is open source, not necessarily the truth. And the fact that it's 5.5, they said it was $5.5 million to train. Not necessarily true. And we're going to talk about that. All right. So it was kind of the culmination of those three things happening all at once that literally shook the U.S. economy. We saw roughly here in the U.S., it was temporary. And for the most part, all of those companies have mostly recovered their market cap that maybe they lost. But essentially when this happened, a lot of the big U.S. tech stocks, specifically NVIDIA, went down because everyone started saying like, oh, apparently this DeepSeek company only spent $5 million to train this state-of-the-art model. Reportedly, they didn't have access, or they reportedly said they didn't have access to the most powerful NVIDIA GPUs. So they're like, the rest of the world who didn't care to really investigate or read or take their time for third-party and independent analysis to come out, they essentially said, wait, the world doesn't need trillions of dollars worth of NVIDIA GPUs. All right? It's not the case. All right. So let's talk about some of the other things in DeepSeek that weren't that good. All right. So it's not truly open source. period. I'm gonna go through and break down the fact that this is not an open source model. Just like, sorry, y'all, like Meta, not technically open source. I'm a big fan of Meta. I talk with a lot of their staff. It's not technically open source. Neither is DeepSeek. And it's not even close, right? So we should probably stop calling it open source and call it an open weights, open-esque, whatever you want to call it. It's not an open source model. All right. Also, there's no real data opt-out. All right. Unless you are downloading and fine-tuning the model yourself, there's no real data opt-out. If you are using the service just by default, their API, using it on their website, downloading the mobile app, which, by the way, skyrocketed to the #1 most downloaded app, free app, right? If you're using it that way, there's no such thing as a data opt-out. Y'all, I kid you not. I saved their old terms of service and data privacy in terms of service and privacy policy. And then when they updated it, I compared it line by line like a human. That's why I look tired, right? I don't sleep a lot. It might actually be Tuesday in my body if I'm coming with some hot takes. All right. So the data that you upload, unless you have downloaded this and fine-tuned it yourself, or unless you are using the AWS version, the Perplexity version, the Microsoft Azure version, if you are using DeepSeek, right, strictly out of the box, everything you upload, literally everything you upload gets sent straight to DeepSeek. You cannot opt out. Unlike US companies that offer some data protection, there's zero. As soon as you enter anything, DeepSeek essentially owns your data. There's nothing you can do about it. If you accidentally upload proprietary documents that maybe you didn't mean to, or maybe you didn't mean to, it's not yours anymore. It's China's. And guess what? The Chinese government can access that if they want to, right? I'm not saying everything you send automatically gets sent over to the Chinese government, but the Chinese government can access any of that data if it wants to. All right. It's also an extremely censored model. Although, like we said, the versions from Microsoft, Perplexity, AWS are not as censored, but try, this has been well documented. Try asking the DeepSeek out of the box about any human rights violations in China. It won't answer you, right? It is already banned in multiple countries and key markets. Let's talk about this new law. All right. There's a new law. U.S. firms, if this law were enacted, U.S. firms could face up to $100 million fines for using the model. Individuals could face $1 million fines just for using the model. All right. And even prison sentences for willful violations. Also, I have to be real. That actual bill that was proposed by a U.S. senator stands like an icicle's chance on the equator of making it anywhere, right? It's not going to become a law, but there's going to be follow-up versions of actual laws here in the U.S. that are, I think, that will be way harsher than, the TikTok ban that actually stood in effect for like 24 hours. There will be some sort of Chinese AI ban. I'm not saying a blanket ban, but there will be heavy regulations and restrictions because we're going to find out. We're going to find out whether it's sooner rather than later what's actually going on. And I'd like to give DeepSeek the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. A lot of the reporting, when there's smoke, there's probably fire. All right. They've already run into a handful of hacks, data breaches, and controversies. Like we said, this already led to a nearly $2 trillion in temporary stock losses here in the U.S. economy. Most companies have already recovered all of that. NVIDIA, as an example, has recovered about 80% of those losses so far. And hey, here's the other thing to maybe keep in mind that goes along with those temporary stock losses. The CEO of DeepSeek is a Chinese hedge fund co-founder. Stating facts here, y'all. Stating facts. All right. Speaking of facts, I'm just going to read this. I'm just going to read this. This was from Yahoo Finance. This was their coverage in the week after DeepSeek was released. Ready? So it said, this week, concerns surrounding DeepSeek led a major sell-off of stocks in top American tech companies, including computer chip maker NVIDIA, which saw almost $600 billion knocked off its valuation. DeepSeek itself is owned by Chinese hedge fund High Flyer, which uses algorithmic trading techniques to place bets on market movements. And then Liang Wenfeng, High Flyer's chief executive, is also DeepSeek's chief executive. All right, so a Chinese hedge fund co-founder is the CEO of DeepSeek. And what is this hedge fund, this Chinese hedge fund, High Flyer, known for? It uses an algorithm to place bets on market movements. All right. I'm not going to speculate on something this big, but I will say the internet is speculating that this was market manipulation, right? That DeepSeek essentially shorted a lot of the U.S. big tech stocks because this is what the hedge fund High Flyer does, right? They use trading techniques to place bets on market movements, according to Yahoo Finance. Whew. I don't know. Did you guys know that? Did you do all this research? Or did you and your company just run to DeepSeek and start uploading all of your data? All right. You got to think about it. So we're going to go quick here. All right. And I'm just bringing the facts. All right. So now I gave you the big picture point of view. I gave you the big picture, good and bad. And now we're going to go through what's actually happening step by step. If you're listening in, I promise I'm going to get through these next couple of slides I have here on my screen fairly quickly because I want you to have the whole story, right? It is so important when using AI at your company. That large language model that you are using is more than a tool, right? You have to have the utmost confidence in the model's output. You have to have the utmost confidence in its data security. All right. And let me just go ahead and say this. All right. Before I get to my list of facts, and I want to take you all chronologically through everything that's happened, let me just say this. A lot of the traditional media here in the US is to blame for this. A lot of, social media, influencers, which a lot of people, have opined that they are being paid by certain companies to put this information out there. I do blame a lot of this on traditional media. I was an investigative reporter before, right? They blindly just went with this $5.5 million. They hardly no one reported on the fact that DeepSeek was started by this hedge fund that really just bets on markets, right? People rushed, right? There's this tendency in the AI space that we all just want to click the big easy button, right? We are looking for the easiest, most impactful shortcut, not necessarily caring or taking the necessary steps to understand what it might mean, the bigger picture, right? Is your company going to get fined $100 million? No. Like I said, that bill is not going to make it. But I mean, I'm also looking at the people out there that are just blindly peddling DeepSeek, right? Because, it's cheaper, it's powerful. Well, okay, when it came out, yes, it was one of the most powerful and most affordable models in the world. But guess what happened after that? OpenAI released updates to their O3 Mini. They also released pricing updates. Google, same thing. So now does DeepSeek have this, huge lead when it comes to speed, open source, which it is not, quality? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In the age of AI in 2025, there's no such thing as an insurmountable lead. And I think when this model came out, everyone just rushed to judgment, rushed to savings, rushed to speed, rushed to fine-tuning models, made terrible decisions, right? So again, I actually put a post about this on LinkedIn. Go back and look. Who do you follow in AI? Were they blindly copying and pasting like a PR company, DeepSeek's claims, telling you you've got to use this, it's state of the art, it's cheap, it's open source? It's not. It's not open source. Transparency is everything. Are the US tech companies the most transparent out there? No. But they're much more transparent than what we have from DeepSeek. And again, we have laws here in the US. I know we have an international audience, all right, but let me just talk about things here in the US. We have laws. We have data privacy laws, right, that protect us. And you do have to put a certain level of trust in a Microsoft, in a Google, in an OpenAI, in an Anthropic, etc. But the US government cannot just be like, yo, Microsoft, yo, OpenAI, hey, Google, let me take all this data and we're just going to use it for whatever purpose we see fit. It doesn't happen here in the US. That is exactly what happens in China, right? And everyone is just blindly saying, oh, build on top of DeepSeek. It's so cheap. It's so cheap, right? They even discounted their prices. When V3 came out, they went with V2 prices for a certain number of weeks just to get everyone using it, right? I would not even be using, aside from if it's from Perplexity, Microsoft, AWS, I would not be using DeepSeek at all, even from other providers. That's the other thing. Maybe you use tools at your company, AI tools to, I don't know, meeting summarizers, writing tools, whatever it may be. Are they using DeepSeek? If so, if you're uploading your company files, guess what? If they are using DeepSeek's API, guess who also has access to all of that information, all of those company documents that you're uploading, and you probably don't know? China does, right? I'm not one, I'm not trying to go on a crazy guy, China this, China that, but if you are using any, and there's thousands of pieces of software out there that are using DeepSeek, and you might not know because they might not tell you. You might have a model selector, so you might have a little bit of agency when it comes to knowing, but you might not know. A lot of companies, they don't tell you what model they're using. And if you are uploading documents, you are putting yourself at risk. So this also goes out to the software developers out there. If you're going to use DeepSeek, that's fine, but you need to make it abundantly clear that you are using DeepSeek, right? And if you allow users to upload files, you need to be very, very clear and very explicit about what that means. All right. All right, now let's get into what's actually happening. So DeepSeek, it is the AI chatbot from hedge fund Highflyer. It was launched January 20th with kind of open source, not really, cost-efficient R1 model, which is its reasoning model. There was 10 million plus downloads within days. It went viral globally. It was the most downloaded app in the iOS store. And they are facing massive data breaches, security flaws, and government bans. So it was launched at a high-profile event in China, and it was unveiled with top government officials talking about these performance claims and bold costs. So the training cost was touted at $5.5 million, which is not true. All right, this was disputed most recently by Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis. So yeah, it's not true. And it's quote unquote open source model intended to challenge established US systems. So why did it go viral? Well, it climbed to the #1 free app on the US App Store overnight. A lot of big names in tech said this was the Sputnik moment, right? They said this changes AI development forever, right? This means that small tech companies, that maybe don't have $1 billion to train a model. They don't have hundreds or thousands of top tier engineers. What they were saying is this means that any company with just a couple $1 million and, a couple talented people can change the world. That was false. All right. Also, there's been a rapid global uptake driven by that low pricing. Just the low pricing alone. Again, you look at it today, R1 and V3 from DeepSeek are not these, sticker shock cheap anymore because of these recent updates from OpenAI and Google. Although for like a week or two, they were exponentially cheaper, and that caused everyone to rush there. So yeah, if you weren't, downloading DeepSeek locally, right? If you have a computer or data center or a cluster with, 100 gigabytes of RAM, but it did position itself as a direct competitor to ChatGPT. And the headlines, really, the unchecked media coverage led to unchecked social media coverage, led to, I think, millions, especially here in America, millions of business leaders blindly following the DeepSeek whale through the dark sea. January 27th, that's when this story really started to unfold, because that's when the U.S. tech stocks essentially tanked. Right, NVIDIA shares fell 17% in one day, 600 billion market share erased just from NVIDIA. The NASDAQ and S&P experienced sharp sell-offs, and there was some financial shock over this low-cost Chinese AI model. Let's get to that $5.5 million, right? This was in DeepSeek's research paper. So again, there's good things. You have to tip your cap to them, right? DeepSeek did release a lot of information about their model, right? Was it all 100% accurate? I don't know. Some of the smartest people in AI are saying no, it wasn't, or at least it wasn't telling the whole truth, because so much of what has happened in the last couple of weeks was predicated on that one number, $5.5 million, right? They saying that's how much it costs to train R1, this reasoning model, which at the time, the reasoning models were extremely expensive, right? Like I said, O3 Mini and O3 Mini High have changed that from OpenAI. Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash Thinking, so it was exponentially cheaper than other reasoning models, at least for a week. And that's what really caused a big bulk of this. But Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis labeled these claims as exaggerated. All right. Demis is obviously one of the smartest people in the world when it comes to AI, right? He's the Google DeepMind CEO. Google essentially invented large language models with the transformer technology. All right. So here's what he said. He was quoted as saying, ready? Quote, seems to have only reported the cost of the final training round, which is a fraction of the cost, end quote. I said that on the show. I said that on Twitter. I said that everyone, right? When they saw that $5.5 million, everyone rushed and said, oh my gosh, big tech companies don't need 100,000 GPUs from NVIDIA, right? And that changed everything. Guess what? Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Don't be foolish. Don't be foolish, right? This is not some groundbreaking, world-changing technological advancement. It's not. It's a great model, state-of-the-art, good benchmarks. Would I ever use it? Absolutely not, right? Unless I'm using it inside of Perplexity right now. And more than anything, I'm just doing it to test it out. I'm not going to use it. I'm not downloading the app. Absolutely not. And this raised a lot of questions on the hidden costs versus the full development expense. So you also have to look at the semi-analysis report. We shared this in the newsletter. We talked about it on our weekly AI News That Matters. So the semi-analysis report, and if you don't know semi-analysis, they are an industry analyst firm. They are, I think, one of the leaders, one of the independent leaders in looking essentially at the semiconductor industry and essentially the technology, the hardware that powers large language models. So this is a world-leading analyst firm that this is all they do: semiconductors, GPUs, AI models. So they reported, their report revealed that DeepSeek's actual all-in costs were closer to $1.6 billion in hardware, and that included 50,000 NVIDIA Hopper GPUs. So there's also separate investigations going that said because there's there's a partial export ban to certain GPUs, essentially certain AI chips going to certain parts of the world. Some of those including regions in China, right? So there's also investigations going on like, hey, did DeepSeek acquire these chips legally? Do they have these chips, right? Again, there is so much secrecy, all right? And I'm just saying what has already been reported out there. OpenAI reportedly has evidence, right? You want to talk about even more things? OpenAI reportedly has evidence that DeepSeek distilled its models from theirs, right? Which is not technically legal according to OpenAI's terms of service. All right. So not only is it like, it didn't cost $5.5 million, but also a lot, even OpenAI reportedly has evidence that DeepSeek essentially copied their paper, right? They copied their test. They just they used OpenAI's models to go ahead and do some of their training. Let's think about that. Again, these are reports. The smoke will continue to clear, and we will get in the coming months the full truth, right? So that's why a lot of these things are not my opinion. These are facts that have been reported. OpenAI also said, and this was less than 24 hours ago, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said when he was confronted about this, he said that OpenAI has, quote, no plans to sue DeepSeek right now, end quote. I don't know. To me, I'm like, yeah, that means you're definitely suing DeepSeek. Great PR response there from Sam Altman, or at least opening the door when you say, hey, no plans to sue DeepSeek right now. But they did say that they are looking into this distillation, these distillation claims. All right. Now let's go chronological so you can understand what's happening. So January 20th, R1 was launched as quote unquote open source. All right. Then you also had that $5.5 million training cost claim touted at this event. And then there was bold claims of world-changing cost efficiency. So it was kind of quiet for like a week, right? And then January 27th, that's when we saw the market shock and the cyber attack. So essentially, the DeepSeek app on January 27th became the number one most downloaded free app in the US overnight. At the same time, we saw all the NVIDIA shares drop, a lot of the other big tech shares drop. And then we also saw a cyber attack the cyber attacks forced temporary API sign-up limits on DeepSeek. All right. And that caused a lot of regulatory blowback and privacy concerns. So January 29th, Italy opened an inquiry over DeepSeek's data collection and storage. GDPR concerns sparked immediate European scrutiny. And by January 31st, Italy banned DeepSeek and Taiwan banned public agency use. All right. January 30th, the cyber firm Wiz exposed an unsecured database in DeepSeek's code. More than 1 million chat logs, API keys, confidential information leaked. Did you know that out there? Or were you just rushing to use something free, something cheap, something fast? Did you care about this when clicking that big easy button, that big red easy button, right? Did you know there were all of these concerns? February 3rd, research revealed unencrypted transfers on 3DES. February 7th, it was reported 100% jailbreak vulnerability. That's not good. That's not good. 100% of jailbreak attempts were successful by another cybersecurity firm. And then there was, on February 8th, reported a device fingerprinting risk. Yikes. All right. More global bans. Australia banned DeepSeek on all government devices February 4th. February 5th, South Korea restricted usage. February 5th. Also, OpenAI alleged unauthorized API use to distill the models. And then February 6th, so last week, U.S. agencies such as the Pentagon, NASA, and Navy have banned DeepSeek on official devices. Texas did the same thing. They were the first state to do so. Now let's talk about some of the legislative pushback. So February 6th, lawmakers proposed a no DeepSeek bill for government devices. That one is well, I won't say very likely, but that one is likely to go through. So in the same way other countries have banned DeepSeek on all government devices, we will likely see that here in the US. Also, guess what? Every business leader that out there, you rush to use DeepSeek, right? All you people spinning up your apps, right, and shoving them down our throats, right? All you random social media influencers with, oh, I have 300,000, followers on TikTok, so everything I say about AI, you need to follow. All those people were blindly pushing DeepSeek. Guess what? When these bans happen, you're not going to be able to sell your technology to any government agency, to any school or university. So good luck. Good luck. If you blindly went down this DeepSeek, hey, it's cheap, it's fast, it's open source. Good luck having a business in the future. You're going to have to revert back, period. This DeepSeek model will not be allowed in the in the medium term future. It will not be allowed on most public devices. And I wouldn't be surprised if certain states take it even a step further. All right. And then we have that new, on February 10th, it was introduced, the new U.S. bill that would fine companies up to $100 million for just using any Chinese AI. It did not name DeepSeek by name. It more or less covered any Chinese large language model. Again, that bill is not going to that proposed bill is not going to become a law. It has no chance, right? It is extremely restrictive. I used to be a political reporter. It is one of the, I'll say this, one of the most restrictive proposed bills I've ever seen, right? Like $1 million fines for individuals and potential prison time who willingly violate this and use no, that won't happen. Yet still, I do think a much less stringent bill will eventually become law. And then we already talked about this, but on February 10th, Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis called DeepSeek's cost claims exaggerated and did say that $5.5 million was not the total training costs like the entire world believed for 2 weeks. It was the final training run. And like I said, according to some analysis, there was probably more than $1 billion of total cost that actually went into building the underlying technology. You can't just look at the last training run and then say, oh, this is what the model costs. Not how it works. Oh, let's get to the good stuff. Terms of service. Yes, y'all. I kid you not. I copied their old terms of service and then they updated it on January 20th. Yes, I'm a dork. No, I don't sleep much. Yes, I use AI to help me with this analysis. But if you look at their old terms of service, section 4.3, and compare it to the new terms of service, it's pretty telling. Ready? So the old terms of service essentially said that data is processed only to provide, maintain, operate, develop, or improve the services. All right. New terms of service, section 4.3 says this. It's to block processing, to block processing, users must, quote unquote, provide feedback. Yeah, that's a symbolic measure. There's no effective way. If you are using, whether on the app, whether you're using their website, their API, there's no way to block data like there's enterprise controls. On OpenAI's ChatGPT, on Claude, on Google Gemini, on Microsoft Copilot. There are plenty of enterprise controls that you cannot send your data. So not only is there zero way in the new DeepSeek terms of service to keep your data private, anything that you upload or any service that is using their API by default, right? Aside from using those more secure instances via AWS, Microsoft Azure, Perplexity, etc., there's no way. There's no way. If you're using their services directly and uploading data, that data belongs to DeepSeek, and the Chinese government at any time can just come and say, yeah, we'll take that and we'll use it for whatever we see fit. So there's no technical opt-out of data training. So nearly all of your inputs and outputs are automatically repurposed. So any data stored in China, as you know, is subject to access by the Chinese Communist Party. Still want to use DeepSeek directly? So like I said, data sent even via the API is sent to servers in China, and the Chinese government can access it under local laws. What are the risks? Well, surveillance, disinformation, espionage. Pick your poison, right? And this is viewed widely, especially in the last week after the initial shock and hoopla settled down. It is viewed as a huge national security threat by U.S. lawmakers, right? Sorry, they're not the smartest bunch for the most part. I've been covering I covered politics for a while. I'd say it's funny, but it's actually sad, right? You can go back and listen to old testimony from U.S. lawmakers on the internet. They didn't even understand what the internet was. They said it was tubes of information, like a bank, how you would stick something in a tube, right? So for the most part, U.S. lawmakers have no clue how technology works and AI. Yes, there are some that do, but for the most part, if they did, I would have already expected a real bill, right? Not a knee slap bill that we saw, like $100 million fines. But I do see some sort of restrictions coming sooner rather than later in terms of using Chinese AI. It's too important to the U.S. economy, period. There's national security concerns. There's geopolitical influence that people aren't really looking at. The potential for disinformation and misinformation is rampant the more that models like this are used and unchecked at either the federal or state level. Let's get to the last point here, y'all. Everyone's like, open source, 5.5 million, state-of-the-art model, best model in the world. No, and no. DeepSeek is not open source. Let me repeat this. DeepSeek is not open source. Also, yes, a lot of the models that you think are open source probably aren't open source either, right? Like Llama is not technically open source, although they are an open source leader. And although I do think DeepSeek's models are great for the open source community, they are not open source. Okay. So yes, DeepSeek did kind of release its full source code and model weights provided under an MIT affiliated license, but here's why it's not open source. According to the Open Source Initiative in their open source AI definition, so that's OSI is the Open Source Initiative. That is the most reputable organization out there on open source technology. So right now with DeepSeek, there's restrictions on usage in specific domains and or regions, which violates OSI's requirements for unrestricted use for being an actual open source model. That's number one. And then the bigger one, well, DeepSeek does not provide access to its full training data sets or sufficient details to allow independent replication of its models, which again is an open source requirement. So go check out, like I did, right? Go check out and read the Open Source Initiative, OSI's, go read their open source AI definition, and you'll see, no, DeepSeek is not an open source model. It's not even close. Just because you can download a distilled version of it, you can a 70B version or a 1B version, or just because you can download something and fork something does not make it an open source model. We have to stop saying that. Is it good for the open source community? Absolutely. Is this a true open source model? No, not even close. Yet every single journalist and every single Billy boy in his mom's basement that is a NFT bro turned crypto bro turned AI expert who's telling you it's an open source model, use it in all your projects. No, it's not. I don't know. I guess people don't like to read. I guess people don't like the facts. I guess people don't care about seeking the truth. They're just deep seeking a shortcut. All right, y'all. That was a lot. And it took me a while to do this show. I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, between, comments on LinkedIn, DMs, emails, you all have been asking about this for weeks, right? Hey, Jordan, when are you going to come out with a show on DeepSeek? I said, not yet, right? When I started this everyday AI thing, if I'm being honest, right, I was like, hey, this is going to be a newsletter and I'm going to do a daily podcast so we have fresh and exclusive insights for the newsletter. I did not anticipate that this podcast, this live stream that turns into a podcast, I did not anticipate that it would become one of the most popular and most listened to AI podcasts in the world, if I'm being honest, right? And over the last, I've been doing this almost every single day for more than 2 years now. Is that right? Gosh. I've realized that I actually have a responsibility, right? And I take that responsibility very seriously. That's why sometimes I don't do, hot takes on something right when it comes out, especially when there's a lot of factors at play that the average business leader in the US doesn't understand, right? Maybe I'm a little pessimistic, right? And maybe that's good. Maybe this is my old, political reporting background, investigative reporting background that comes into play here, right? But it's the same thing. Anytime a big AI company puts out a press release, I never just read it back to you and take it as truth. I test it rigorously, right? All the claims that we can, right, with our very, very small team. But I take the responsibility of this podcast very seriously, right? Because I've received a lot of messages, especially over the last year, from literally, I get messages from Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies saying that they made an AI decision based on something I said on the podcast, right? They're like, hey, our team listened to it. We investigated what you said and you are right. So this is what we did. So I'm not going to, the day that DeepSeek comes out, I'm not going to come and come to you with a show that says DeepSeek is the most amazing thing ever. It's open source. It is cheap. It is powerful. It is safe. It is transparent because it's open source. No, I'm not going to do that. I feel a little bit of responsibility because, like I started the top of the show talking about, generative AI is already a black box, right? We need to demand answers. We need to demand transparency. Speaking of DeepSeek, we need to seek deeply the truth. We need to understand implications. We also need to be cognizant to the fact that AI is about more than AI, right? For the first time ever, I talked about this. For the first time ever in 2024, the top 6 companies in the US by market cap were all in the same industry, right? AI tech companies, more or less. They were all investing in AI. That's never happened before. Okay. AI is the new world economy. And so what happens with that? This is more than, typing in a prompt on a large language model. It's more than that. This is global power. This is geopolitical influence. There's very sophisticated misinformation and disinformation campaigns being run in the AI space. This is political power. This is military power. This isn't just a chatbot anymore, right? And that's why sometimes I try to take my time. I try to educate myself. I try to be informed. I try to ask the hard questions and think about those hard questions. So I hope today you can at least see, and to answer the question, is DeepSeek AI Sputnik moment, or is it a national security threat? I'll say it's something in between. Could it be a national security threat? Seemingly so. according to some of the bills U.S. lawmakers in certain states have put out, it does seem like it could be a national security threat, although I do not have any firsthand information. But a lot of the reporting and some of these initial bills and laws that have been proposed would lead you to believe that, yes, it is a national security threat. Is it AI Sputnik moment? Absolutely not. All of the tech visionaries and big VCs and everyone else that, on January 20th or January 27th that made those bold claims, they just wanted to be first. It's more important to be factual than it is to be first. The stakes are high, higher than you think. That's why I hope you can appreciate the time that went into putting this show together. And I hope that as you are making decisions, right, whether you are a solopreneur trying to build something, whether you are a leader of a department at a Fortune 500 company, whether you are working in big tech, I hope you take the time to fully understand the implications and everything that went on here. Because like I said, it's bigger than AI. All right. And this is not the first time. This will not be the last time. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, like I said, we're going to be recapping this in our newsletter. So please go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for the free daily newsletter. While you're there, like I said, I already did this. I already covered this before it even happened in our 2025 AI predictions and roadmap series. So make sure while you're on our website, it's free. You can just go listen to episodes 443 through 447. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.